So how do you keep clean off the grid without any running water in the wintertime? A lot of you have been asking. Here are 3 ways that I do it. First way I do it, and the first way I would suggest to you, is eat healthy. If you're eating mini eggs, drinking beer, eating pizza all the time, you're not going to be as nice as if you're eating, consciously and healthy all the time. You'll be better off if you eat healthy. Method number 2, gifts from civilization. I have hand sanitizer and wet wipes here. When people think of off-grid or camping or backcountry, whatever, they tend to think of like this vision of the 1800s in their heads. We can buy hand sanitizer and wet wipes and keep ourselves clean wherever we need to on a daily basis. But number 3 is what I use the most. I always have a pot of water sitting on the stove. Now let's check this fire. Fire's good. Okay, so the water's boiling hot. I'll show you what I do to cool it down. Oh, I just put some snow in there. Like that. Now that water is just the perfect temperature. Next step, take a bar of soap and dip it in the nicely warmed water. You can fill in the rest. You just basically wash yourself and then dry off with this nicely dried towel beside the wood stove. Like, this is super hot here.
Adam decided to build a cabin in the Canadian wilderness and live off grid.
The end result is you're nice and clean, and then you get super dry beside the stove. You put your towel back up to dry right there. It dries really fast, and then once you fill up the bucket of water with snow and ice again, the whole process repeats itself as needed. So here's a story of how my tiny house came to be. A couple of years back, I traveled Canada alone to learn from mountain men and self-sufficient people. My journeys took me to the beautiful Northwest Territories where I learned and worked off the grid. After that, I lived in a natural shelter, learning bushcraft skills, and decided to turn my new outlook on life into reality. So I bought a little piece of land and moved into my winter tent. I started felling trees to build a little off-grid place. No bills, no mortgage. It was a lot of work, clearing, cutting, and building from scratch. I lived in my tents for 9 months to come. With some local hands, I was able to get the logs off the ground and learn the process. By the time the snow flew again, I got out of my tent and into my new creation. And here I am today, enjoying the fruits of my labor.
It's not always as glamorous as it looks.
Living the outhouse life. This video I'm going to show you how to live with an outhouse in the wintertime. Our journey begins in the cabin at the wood stove. So I just get some ashes out of the bottom here. So you can see, that's where the ashes collect. You use the ashes to sprinkle down there because ashes masks the scent of anything that's down the big hole, which is what an outhouse is, a big hole in the ground. All of the stuff that goes down, all your waste, basically just goes into the land, gets composted, and as long as you're not close to a water source, life is good. It's not bad for the environment. The tree roots will actually suck up the nutrients and the forest will thrive off of your waste. Here we are, all reused wood. There's a nice comfy toilet seat, toilet paper in the coffee can so squirrels don't get in there. A nice view out the window there. So I keep these ashes in this little box here, this metal box, and I sprinkle them down there when I'm all done.
He often gets asked about the impact of cutting down the trees for the cabin.
Cutting trees, is it always such a bad thing? As you can see, my house is literally made of trees, so I'm going to show you some considerations I made before I cut them. So for starters, these are all balsam fir trees. And balsam fir doesn't tend to live very long, maybe 40 to 60 years. And it's more of a tree that shows up kind of as a weed to fix the soil in an area that's already been cleared a couple of times, like my place. So littered throughout this balsam fir forest that I showed up to 5 years ago are these maples. Maples will live 200 to 300 years, and historically that's what this area mostly was, hardwood trees. But because it's been logged so much, you get a lot of balsam fir. All these skinny tall ones are all balsam fir trees you see behind me. A big part of what I did was cut these balsams that were right next to these maples like this to give the maples more light, more of a chance to survive and live a long life. Balsam I use for my house, and then a maple that's hopefully going to live a long time. What you see behind me here is all once really thick balsam forest. I cut all those down and I burnt the stumps out of the ground, and I've cleared a little space for me to live in and enjoy, while keeping a lot of trees that are standing at the same time. A lot of stumps I burnt out of the ground right around the spot you see here, and it's just reclaiming into old meadow and wildflowers now. All those maples up top you see there have nothing in their way. They've just got a lot of sunlight and a lot of floor space to put roots down instead of a giant forest in front of them that's just going to die quickly. This wasn't here a couple of years ago. It's a field, a little patch of maple saplings that have come to life. See how pretty and tall and straight this beautiful maple is right behind me? Well, I cut this tree right here for firewood last year just to help it out some more, and it's really thriving now. When I first got here, I was really hesitant about cutting too many trees, and I was worried about it. I was kind of a bit more of a tree hugger than I am now, you could say, but I can tell you that if you cut trees the right way on your little piece of land or patch of woods, whatever, you can create a really lush paradise for all kinds of wildlife to thrive in. Did I plant a tree for every tree I cut down? No, silly. Let me show you something. So welcome to the forest's most amazing life hack, natural tree regeneration right here. Because I cut this place in the proper way, selectively cutting, I've let so much more light into the woods that all these have taken root since I started, way more than I could plant. Here's another fine example of the life hack at work. There's tons of little maples in here now, right behind the big rock there. And my favorite little buddies are these beautiful little oak trees that were not here a couple years ago when I was cutting. From what I understand about these oak trees is that an acorn could be sitting underground for years until it has the right amount of sunlight to raise the temperature for it to actually germinate and turn into a little tree. So, you know, from taking down in the neighborhood of maybe like 30 mature trees to build my house, it's given me countless more, mostly maples and some oaks, that are starting the next generation of forest. So no, I did not replant many trees when I cut all the other ones down to build my place. I made use of this wonderful forest life hack and let nature take care of itself.
Adam's little spot in the woods looks so idyllic. In the comments, people were just wishing they could do what Adam does, with one person saying, "Amazing story, man. Envious of the bravery it takes to go this route." Another person said, "This is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing. I can live vicariously through you in the peace of the forest." Beautiful. Yeah, I think we're all living vicariously through him. As always, thank you for watching Happiest. If you like this video, then be sure to follow our Instagram and TikTok pages for more videos just like this. And if you have any of your own clips that you want to share, be sure to send them in.